me to sit. There's no good place for me to sit, so I apologize for my back to you.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to call the public hearing to order. I'm Richard Tolliver. I'm a member of the Commission of Chicago Landmarks, and I will be the hearing officer for today's hearing. Seated next to me are Duana Pablo, Assistant Commissioner, Historic Preservation Division of the Department of Planning and Development, and Bradley Pelton, Assistant Corporation Counsel of the city's Law Department, who is the Commission's counsel for today's public hearing. I will now summarize the nature of today's hearing. The Commission on Chicago Landmarks was established and is governed by the Municipal Code of Chicago. The procedures for today's public hearing are contained in Article 2 of the Commission's Rules and Regulations governing hearings on landmark designations. The purposes and duties of the Commission are set forth in the Municipal Code and include the identification, preservation, protection, enhancement, and encouragement of the continued utilization and the rehabilitation of such areas, districts, places, buildings, structures, works of art, and other objects having a special historical, community, architectural, or aesthetic interest or value to the city of Chicago and its citizens. The Commission carries out this mandate by recommending to the City Council that specific areas, districts, places, buildings, structures, works of art, and other objects be designated as official Chicago landmarks. The Commission bases its recommendations on the 7 criteria set forth in Section 2-120-620 of the Municipal Code and the integrity criterion set forth in Section 2-120-630 of the Municipal Code. The purpose of today's hearing is for the Commission to receive relevant facts and information to assist the Commission in deciding whether to recommend that the building meets the criteria set forth in Section 2-120-620. The format of the hearing will be as follows. First, Diana Cavallo will review the chronology of events related to the proposed designation that has led to today's hearing. Then I will rule on any request for party status to the hearing by property owners, as well as other individuals or organizations. After that, the Commission staff will make a presentation summarizing the preliminary landmark recommendation for the proposed designation of the Bankers Building. After the staff's presentation, property owners or other individuals who have been granted party status will have the opportunity to ask questions of the staff. Then those granted party status by me will be able to make a presentation regarding the proposed landmark designation. Lastly, any members of the public who wish to make brief statements concerning the proposed landmark designation may do so. All property owners or their representatives have the right to make a statement for or against the proposed designation. They also have the right to ask questions of commission staff after completion of their presentation. The landmarks ordinance also allows property owners and other individuals to request status as a party to the hearing. Parties to the hearings proceedings can make longer and more detailed presentations for or against the proposed landmark designation. That can include submitting photographs and other documents, as well as presenting testimony from their own witnesses. Parties may also question any other party's witnesses and question the commission staff member who summarized the preliminary landmark recommendation. Only those who want to make a more detailed presentation beyond a statement or question need to request party status. Those wishing to request party status should fill out a blue appearance form and return it to a member of the staff. These forms are at the table by the door. If you wish to be a party and you have filled out a blue appearance form requesting party status, I will call on each of you in turn and consider your party request. If you've not filled out a blue appearance form but wish to be a party, please do so now. Otherwise, property owners and members of the general public who wish to make a statement in support of the proposed landmark designation should fill out a pink appearance form, giving their name and address of their property or the organization they represent, if any. Party owners and members of the general public who wish to make statements in opposition to the proposed landmark designation should fill out a yellow appearance form. These forms are available from the staff at the back of this room and should be completed and returned to a member of the staff at this time. I want to note finally that the commission's rules and regulations limit presentations at this hearing to information relevant to whether the proposed designation meets criteria for Chicago landmark designation. Information relating to zoning, permit applications, the building code, or potential economic impacts is not to be heard during these presentations. Now I will ask Deanna Cavallo to outline the chronology of events relating to the proposed landmark designation of the Bankers Building that has led to this public hearing and incorporate the commission's documents that are relevant to the proposed designation into the record. Yeah.
Excuse me. Thank you, Commissioner. In letters dated May 30, 2025, and identified as Commission Document 1, Commission on Chicago Landmarks Commission sent letters to the two owners of the Bankers building at 105 West Adams Street. BRE Quad IL Owner LLC, owner of the lower floors of the building leased to a hotel, and 105 Adams Development LLC, owner of the majority of the building proposed for conversion from office to residential. These letters notified the owners of the Commission's June 9, 2025 meeting when the Commission would consider a preliminary landmark recommendation, the preliminary recommendation for landmark designation of the building. From June 6, 2025 to June 25, 2025, Commission staff was in communication via phone, email, and letter with attorneys Lawrence M. Benjamin and Bernard Citron, who represent Club Quarters Management Company, LLC, which manages and operates the Club Quarters Hotel portion of the building. Club Quarters operates the hotel portion of the building on behalf of BRE Quad IL Owner LLC, the owner of the hotel portion of the building. The attorneys requested that the commission delay its preliminary recommendation scheduled for June 9, 2025. This request was not granted. Commission staff provided these attorneys with information on the landmark designation process and its impact. At its regular meeting of June 9, 2025, the commission approved a preliminary recommendation for designation of the building as a Chicago landmark. The commission found that the building appeared to meet 3 of the 7 criteria for designation, as well as the integrity criterion identified in the Chicago Landmarks Ordinance Municipal Code of the City of Chicago, Section 212580. The preliminary recommendation, identified as Commission Document 2, initiated the consideration process for further study and analysis of the possible landmark designation of the building. As part of the preliminary recommendation, the commission preliminarily identified the significant historical and architectural features of the building as all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building. As part of the preliminary recommendation, the commission adopted a preliminary summary of information dated June 9, 2025, and identified as Commission Document 3. The Department of Planning and Development, on behalf of the commission, notified the owners of the building of the preliminary recommendation in a letter dated June 12, 2025, which is identified as Commission Document 5. On July 10, 2025, commission staff Matt Crawford received a phone call from Mara S. Georges, an attorney representing CW Capital Asset Management LLC, lender to BRE Quad IL Owner LLC. Ms. Georges inquired about the commission meeting scheduled for that afternoon and the agenda item that was a report from the Department of Planning and Development on the proposed designation of the building. Ms. Georges was informed about the landmark designation and its previous and next steps in the designation process. At its regular meeting of July 10, 2025, the commission received a report identified as Commission Document 6 from Sierra Boatwright, Commissioner of the Department of Planning and Development, stating that the proposed landmark designation of the building supports the city's overall planning and economic development goals and is consistent with the city's governing policies and plans. In letters dated July 11, 2025, the commission officially requested consent to the proposed landmark designation from the 2 owners of the building, BRE Quad IL Owner LLC and 105 Adams Development LLC. Copies of these letters, which requested the return of enclosed written consent forms indicating consent or non-consent by August 25, 2025, is identified as Commission Document 7. One owner of the property, 105 Adams Development LLC, submitted a form indicating its consent to landmark designation on May 15, 2025, and is identified as Commission Document 8. The same owner resubmitted its consent form on September 4, 2025, and is identified as Commission Document 9. In a letter dated August 11, 2025, identified as Commission Document 10, the second owner of the property, BRE Quad IL Owner LLC, requested a 120-day extension to respond to the commission's request. The commission responded with a letter dated August 11, 2025, identified as Commission Document 11, that the extension was granted, extending the request for consent period until December 23, 2025. In a letter dated August 21, 2025, identified as Commission Document 12, the commission notified BRE Quad IL Owner LLC that after careful review of the potential harm that a delay in the landmark designation would cause for the building's redevelopment and rehabilitation, it was retracting the extension, and that the commission requests the owner's response to the request for consent by August 25, 2025. In 2024, CW Capital Asset Management LLC, lender to BRE Quad IL Owner LLC, initiated foreclosure proceedings on that owner's portion of the building On August 19, 2025, a Cook County Sheriff's sale was held and CW Capital Asset Management LLC submitted a successful bid for the property. Pending court approval, the bid would allow CW Capital to take title to the property. In a letter dated August 25, 2025, and identified as Commission Document 13, the Commission received a letter from Heather Deans Foley, an attorney representing CW Capital Asset Management LLC. The letter requested that the Commission, one, grant CW Capital Asset Management LLC an extension through at least October 31, 2025, in order to allow CW Capital time to get up to speed and provide a meaningful response to the Commission's request for consent to the landmark designation. And two, reschedule today's public hearing for a date that is at least 60 days past to allow time for the circuit court to approve the foreclosure sale and confirm their ownership of the property. In an email dated August 26, 2025, and identified as Commission Document 14, Commission staff Matt Crawford informed Ms. Foley that because CW Capital was not yet entitled to any part of the building, the Commission was unable to grant an extension per the Commission Landmarks Ordinance. Ms. Venerable was further notified, Ms. Foley was further notified of today's hearing on how to participate. In an email with attached form to the Commission dated August 27, 2025, identified as Commission Document 15, BRE Quad IL Owner LLC indicated their non-consent to the landmark designation. Without written consent from the property owner, Section 120-650 of the Chicago Landmarks Ordinance requires the Commission to hold a public hearing on the preliminary recommendation for the designation of the building as a Chicago landmark. In letters dated August 27, 2025, identified as Commission Document 16, the Commission notified both owners of the building of today's hearing. A notice of the hearing date was also posted as a sign in the public right-of-way in front of the building and was published as a legal notice in the Chicago Tribune. A certificate from the Tribune attesting to the publication on August 29, 2025 of the legal notice for today's public hearing date is identified as Commission Document 17. The public hearing notice was also posted on the Department of Planning and Development's website. A photo of a temporary notice sign posted in front of the building September 1, 2025 is identified as Commission Document 18. Copies of photographs and text used in the Commission staff's presentation at today's hearing are identified as Commission Document 19. Other correspondence, emails, and petitions received by the Commission pertaining to the proposed designation are identified as Commission Document 20. On September 11, 2025, Commission staff attended a meeting requested by attorneys Mara S. Georges and Heather Dean Foley, both representing CW Capital Asset Management LLC. Present at this meeting were attorney Jason Gorsinski, representing BRE Quad 11 Owner LLC, and representatives of CW Capital, BRE Quad, and Club Quarters Hotel. Commission staff responded to questions regarding the impact of the landmark designation as part of this meeting. Attendees at the meeting renewed their request for a continuance of today's hearing. In a letter received September 11, 2025, identified as Commission Document 21, the Commission received communications from attorneys Jason Gorsinski and Mara S. Georges. These attorneys wrote on behalf of the current owner of the hotel portion of the property, BRE Quad IL Owner LLC, and the successful bidder for their property, CW Capital Asset Management LLC. This letter renewed BRE's request for a continuance of today's public hearing, as well as to be a party to today's hearing. In a letter dated September 14, 2025, identified as Commission Document 22, The commission received a communication from attorney Liz Butler, who wrote on behalf of the current owner, 105 Adams Development LLC, co-owner of the property. This letter petitioned the commission to deny any further extensions and proceed with today's hearing as scheduled. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Deanna. Before ruling on requests for party status, I would like to address an aspect of the chronology of events that is the repeated request by one current owner and likely future owner of the building that today's hearing be continued. Ernest C. Wong, Chair of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, has reviewed these written requests, including the letter and exhibits received on September 11th, 2025, and identified in the record as Commission Document 21. And the letter and exhibits received on September 14th, 2025, and identified in the record as Commission Document 22, and has decided not to delay today's hearing and to proceed with the landmark designation process. If anyone here would like to add additional information on the request to delay the proceedings that was not included in the letters, they can do so at this time. Again, please do not repeat what was stated in the letters. That is already part of the record. Does anyone wish to speak and supplement the record? If so, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, Deborah Leffler. I represent BRE Quad IL owner, which is the current owner of the hotel property.
Anyone else? In a moment, I will rule on requests to become a party at today's hearing. Right now. Oh, go ahead.
So to summarize, we are asking the commission to postpone this hearing for 60 days. So that the current and future owners can have a chance to evaluate exactly what the legal implications and practical implications are for them. Requests for such extensions are routinely granted in my understanding. However, the city refused to grant us any extension in this case. To give you some background, the office owner has proposed construction of 400 residential dwelling units on the property. Prior to July of this year, that proposed redevelopment could not have moved forward without the consent of the hotel owner. According to an easement and operating agreement between the office owner and the hotel owner, neither owner can take any action to amend the zoning of the property without prior written consent from the other owner. This is consistent with the mandatory plan development or PD requirement in a DC 16 zoning district when the proposed use includes over 350 dwelling units. However, on July 25th, at the request of the office owner and with no notice to the hotel owner, the city council passed an ordinance, SO 2025-0018189, that removes the PD requirement altogether. I will quote from the ordinance. The mandatory PD requirement of the preceding threshold table does not apply if the development involves only the rehabilitation or reuse of an official Chicago landmark. Although there appears to be no reasonable relationship between a landmark designation based on exterior features of the building and eliminating the PD requirement for a 400 unit development on its face, the amended ordinance purports to override the hotel owner's contractual right to consent to a zoning change. Simply because the building will be a landmark building. The hotel owner has learned that this ordinance was crafted with the help of the office owner's counsel and passed for the explicit purpose of depriving the hotel owner of its right to consent to a zoning change. In an August 14th email from Matt Crawford, He said, I understand that BRE Quad ILLC has not supported the PD. To work around this problem, City Council amended the zoning ordinance in July.
Objection, Chair, this is a prohibited subject under the landmarks ordinance, and we're getting really far into the weeds on zoning in this request for an extension.
I believe I've already been given permission to speak on this topic.
Council says we're going to let them proceed because this is before the hearing.
Thank you. And I do want to point out that the landmarking is so inextricably tied up with the redevelopment that they cannot be extricated. So it's very highly relevant. So Matt Crawford said, to work around the problem of BRE not consenting to a zoning change, City Council amended the zoning ordinance in July to allow certain exceptions from the plan development requirement for designated Chicago landmarks. In other words, the amended ordinance was specifically targeted to remove my client's contractual right to consent and to a zoning change and to favor instead the office owner's redevelopment plans. To put it plainly, the purpose and intent of the ordinance was to elevate the rights of one property owner over the rights of another. However, despite the somewhat drastic effect landmarking status will have on the hotel owner's interest in property rights, the city has refused to give the hotel owner a reasonable amount of time, or indeed any time, to determine how landmarking will affect the hotel owner's interests. On August 11th, we asked the city for a 120-day extension of the review period for the proposed landmark designation period. This request was immediately granted within hours, as indeed such extensions are routinely granted. However, a few days later, on August 14th, the city informed us that it was, quote, reevaluating the extension.
Excuse me, this is already part of the record, so you can move on to another point.
It should go without saying that the timing of a landmarking hearing should not be determined by a developer's or one owner's interests at the expense of another's. As far as I know, the Landmark Commission is not in the business of deciding which owner's rights matter more. It shouldn't be in the business of greenlighting redevelopment plans by steamrolling over property owners' rights. If the city is concerned that an extension will delay the redevelopment project, the hotel owner submits that denying the extension will have the same effect, because the hotel owner will be left with no option other than seeking to enforce its consent rights by enjoining development as a whole. The benefit in an extension, of course, would be that the hotel owner would have a fair opportunity to evaluate the effects of the development on its own property rights and afford it an opportunity to try and reach middle ground with the office owner. While the hotel owner does not per se oppose the LaSalle Street Reimagined initiative, we are merely asking this body for a 60-day extension to give us the opportunity to assess the rights and determine how landmark status will affect our rights. The fact of pushing landmarking through without giving the hotel owner an opportunity to assess what that means is a pretty dire oppression of the hotel owner's rights. I'm reluctant to say this and I'm reluctant to do it. But if that does happen, the hotel owner will have no choice but to initiate litigation and joining the landmarking and or redevelopment of the property. I imagine that the city would prefer to grant a 60-day continuance for this hearing rather than being embroiled in expensive and resource-draining litigation. As a final point, I would encourage the commission to consider the optics here. The city has already acknowledged that the ordinance was passed for the express purpose of interfering with the hotel owner's contractual rights. I think that in the public view, also denying the hotel owner a brief 60-day extension could be interpreted as the city unjustly favoring one property owner over another. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Pause for a second while I plug in, some reason my battery appears right. Now I'll be stating hazard, fortunately. That's it, huh? Okay.
There's no one else who desires to speak. We will proceed. In a moment, I will rule on requests to become a party at today's hearing. First, regarding the property owner or their representatives wishing to present themselves as parties to the hearing. If the owner of a property being considered for landmark designation or their representative only wishes to make a statement for or against the proposed landmark designation, he or she does not have to declare himself a party. A property owner may still make a verbal statement during the public statement portion of the hearing after presentations by any parties, or may present for the record a written statement. A property owner still retains the right to ask questions from the commission staff at the conclusion of their presentation, summarizing the preliminary landmark recommendation. However, the commission's rules and regulations do give the owner of a property being considered for landmark designation the right to be a party to the hearing. If they declare themselves a party, they can then participate in the hearing beyond making a verbal statement by submitting a written statement or by asking questions of the commission staff after their presentation. If declared a party, a property owner can also make a presentation for or against the proposed landmark designation. In addition to an oral or written statement, such presentations may include documents, photographs, and/or testimony from witnesses about whether the property meets landmark criteria. A party's witnesses may be questioned about their presentations by any other party, commission staff, and the hearing officer. Presentations and testimonies by property owners with party status should be no longer than 60 minutes. Anyone requesting party status should have filled out a blue appearance form and returned it to a member of the staff. Please note that in fairness to other parties, I will not allow potential parties to declare themselves later in the public hearing. Therefore, you should ask to be a party at this time if you wish to be considered one. I have, how many forms? 3 blue appearance forms from property owners requesting party status. I will review each of them. The landmark. Oh, I have to state their names. Okay. 105 Adams Development, LLC. Deborah LaFleur for BRE Quad owner, and Mara Georges. The landmark ordinance also allows that certain other persons, organizations, or legal entities may become parties of this proceeding. If you are an interested individual or a representative of an organization and simply want to make a verbal or written statement for or against the proposed designation, you may do so without asking to be named a party to the hearing. You would simply make your statement during the public statement portion of the hearing. However, the Chicago Landmarks Ordinance states that a person, organization, or other legal entity whose use or enjoyment or whose members' use or enjoyment of property proposed for designation may be injured by either the designation of the property or the failure to recommend designation may become a party to a designation hearing. In addition, persons, organizations, or other legal entities residing in, leasing, or having an ownership interest in real property located within 500 feet of the boundary line of the proposed landmark may become a party. Again, parties can make presentations for or against the proposed landmark designation, which may include not just an oral or written statement, but also documents, photographs, and/or testimony from witnesses as to whether the property meets landmark criteria. I have 3 blue appearance forms from individuals, organizations, or legal entities requesting parties status. I will review each of them in turn. Next, we will hear a presentation by Matt Crawford and of the commission staff summarizing the preliminary landmark recommendation for the bill. Matt.
Thank you, Commissioner Tolliver. 1 second. Good, thanks, Cameron. So as the chronology says, the Landmarks Commission in June initiated landmark designation of the Bankers Building at 105 West Adams. And I want to just run through what the commission has preliminarily found. Okay, so we're in the loop, obviously, we all know that. 34th Ward, address is 105 West Adams. Closer view, and the building's location at the southwest corner of Adams and Park in the financial park of the loop. In its preliminary recommendation of June 9th, the commission preliminarily found that the Bankers Building meets 3 criteria for landmark designation, including number 1, for heritage, specifically the growth of financial service firms during the booming economy of America and Chicago in the 1920s. And that the building was also a response to Chicago's first zoning ordinance of 1923. Commission also found preliminarily that the building meets criterion 4 for architecture as a rare combination of the Art Deco and classical styles of architecture applied to a tall commercial building. Finally, the commission has determined preliminarily that the building meets criterion 5 as the work of significant architects, the Burnham Brothers, an architectural firm that made significant contributions to Chicago in the 1920s. The Bankers Building was commissioned by the Adams Clark Building Corporation, which was formed by Ernest A. Jackson. Prior to coming to Chicago, Jackson applied the cattle trade in Texas and real estate development in South Dakota. When he came to Chicago in 1924, he began acquiring commercial buildings in the Loop. The Bankers Building was Jackson's first foray into real estate development in Chicago. This 1926 rendering of the building is part of an advertisement for real estate bonds that were sold to the public to finance the building's construction. This was a common practice in the 1920s. Jackson commissioned the Dilks Construction Company of Chicago as general contractor, And that company documented the construction of the building with photographs, beginning with the demolition of a late 19th century building on the property. 2 weeks later, caissons were being placed for the foundation. Construction of the steel structural frame was underway by December. January, the masonry at the base of the building was in place. Next month, the building was nearly topped out. Here is the building nearly complete in April. It was ready for occupancy the summer of 1927. Contemporary accounts of the building's construction noted that it was completed in a remarkably short time, 240 working days, or an average of 5 days per floor. Composition of the banker's building is defined by an exterior light court that creates prominent wings at the base of the building. Above this, the form of the building steps back as the building rises. This composition is largely a response to Chicago's first zoning ordinance of 1923. That ordinance sought to balance the demand for office space in the 1920s while maintaining sunlight and air at street level. The code allowed the base of buildings to rise to 264 feet. And above that height, buildings could go higher with a tower, with 2 restrictions. The footprint of the additional tower could occupy no more than 25% of the building lot, and its volume could be no more than 1/6 of the total building. So with that formula, architectural historian Carol Willis noted that Chicago architects developed 2 approaches to the new zoning envelope. One approach was this: a base with tower form, consisting of a blocky 264-foot tall base, covering the entire lot, topped with a slender tower. Examples of this approach include the Carbide and Carbon building at left, the Trustees System Service building in the middle, and the Mather Tower at right. Willis identified a second approach to the zoning problem that was more integrated architecturally, and the banker's building above left was the first example. The more integrated massing gives the impression of one central tower emerging from a low base and flanked by tall wings of about 20 stories. Other examples of this composition include the Chicago Board of Trade in the middle and the LaSalle Wacker building at right. While the 1923 zoning ordinance shaped the banker's building's morphology, the design of the building is also clearly influenced by the Art Deco and Classical Revival styles of architecture. The Art Deco character of the building is derived from its overall verticality, created by piers that rise unbroken to the roof with recessed horizontal spandrels. The building's setbacks cause it to become narrower as it rises taller, reinforcing its verticality, which is another feature of the Art Deco. While the Art Deco is a forward-looking style, the banker's building also employs a more traditional Classical Revival program of ornament. You can see this like this surround at the main entrance on Clark Street, which is treated as a triumphal arch. And then we have things like this panel showing crouched Atlantes or male figures holding a globe surrounded by classical symbols. The ornament at the banker's building is rendered in cast stone, which is a form of concrete and relatively uncommon in Chicago. This ornament at the banker's building was manufactured by the Benedict Stone Corporation, which opened a manufacturing plant in Chicago in 1924 when it received the very large commission to supply its material for the construction of Soldier Field. This advertisement by the company shows that it opened a showroom in the banker's building after 1927. With respect to Criterion 5, the banker's building was designed by the Burnham Brothers, Inc., led by Daniel H. Burnham Jr. and Hubert Burnham, architects, brothers, and sons of Daniel H. Burnham, the celebrated Chicago architect and planner. In addition to the Bankers Building, their notable buildings in Chicago include the Carbide and Carbon Building, designated Chicago landmark and arguably Chicago's best Art Deco skyscraper. They also designed this, the United States Custom House, which is listed in the National Register. This is from 1933. And the Burnham Building at 160 North LaSalle, just across the street. This was now the state of Illinois building. The commission in June found preliminarily that the building meets the separate integrity criterion. In the recent past, areas of brick have been replaced at the building's corners and at shelf angles and at lintels. So you have this new tan colored brick that was selected to match the color of the existing brick once it's all cleaned. So it's not visually perfect, but once it's cleaned, it should be. The other change to the building over the course of its nearly century of Chicago winters has been the loss of terracotta ornament at the top of the building, as you can see in the comparison of the historic and current photo. This is not really uncommon for buildings of this age in Chicago, and it does not really sufficiently diminish what the building has to say. So to conclude, the commission has preliminarily identified the significant historical and architectural features of the building as all exterior elevations, including roof lines. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crawford. That concludes the staff presentation. Now we will take questions for Mr. Crawford. I want to reiterate that any property owner, whether a party to the hearing and or other party, may ask questions to the staff. Questions must relate to whether the proposed designation meets the criteria set forth in section 2-120-620 of the municipal code. We will begin by taking questions from the property owners or owners' representatives. If you have a question, please state your name and whether you are the owner's attorney, or the owner's consultant. Start with 105 Adams Development LLC.
No questions.
Deborah LaFleur,
No questions.
Mara Georges.
No questions.
Thank you. We will now take questions from any parties who are not owners or representatives to whom I have granted party status. If you have a question, please come forward to the chair. And it says microphone, but we don't have a microphone. State your name, the organization or legal entity you represent, and the address of your property for the record. Okay, there aren't any. Next, we will have presentations by parties to whom I have granted party status. We will begin with presentations by parties in support of the proposed designation. Presentations may include a verbal or written statement, documents, photographs, and or testimony from witnesses. Presentation should be no longer than 60 minutes for the property owner or their representative granted party status, and 20 minutes for parties who do not own the property, and must be limited to whether the proposed designation meets the landmark criteria set forth in section 2-120-620 of the municipal code. Information ruled by the hearing officer as not relevant to whether the property meets landmark criteria may not be entered into the hearing record. Also, to the extent any presentations include testimony from witnesses or any other parties to the hearing, the commission staff and the hearing officer may question the witnesses. Now we'll hear presentations from those parties in support of the landmark designation.
Record, was there a ruling on party status for each of the parties requested? Is that
There wasn't a ruling, but I can allow each of the parties to have status.
Thank you.
31. Yes.
We'd like to be recognized to make a statement on behalf of the owner of 105 Adams Development LLC.
Okay, could you state your name, please?
Good morning. Commissioner Tolliver, my name is Liz Butler with the law firm of Taft, Stintinius and Hollister LLP, located at 111 East Wacker Drive in Chicago, and I represent 105 Adams Development LLC, the owner of the majority of the Bankers Building at 105 West Adams in Chicago. On behalf of the owner, I'm pleased to present this statement in strong support of the proposed designation of 105 West Adams as a Chicago. As a preliminary matter, we thank the commission for the opportunity to present this statement. The rules and regulations of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks provide parties with the right to participate in designation proceedings, subject to the requirement that presentations address only whether the building satisfies the criteria set forth for designation in the municipal code. Rules specifically prohibit the presentation by parties of information concerning zoning matters or economic hardship, and with recognition of those parameters, our comments focus on how this property clearly meets the ordinance criteria for designation. And we respectfully register our objection to the presentation of any prohibited subjects by other parties in the proceedings today. I would now like to turn to the broader context in which this designation arises, specifically the city's ongoing efforts to revitalize the LaSalle Street corridor through adaptive reuse and mixed income housing. The city of Chicago is implementing a bold vision for revitalizing the LaSalle Street corridor with mixed income housing and amenities. As of May 2025, 6 adaptive reuse proposals consisting of 1,765 units of mixed income housing have been advanced for city financial assistance and received approval from the Community Development Commission or the City Council for $316.7 million in tax increment financing support. Collectively representing more than $9 million in total investment, the projects will repurpose more than 2 million square feet of vacant space, including the creation.
Mr. Commissioner, I heard council make an advance objection. We are saying anything that doesn't meet deal with landmark criteria, yet now she's straying very far from landmark criteria, which I'm fine with as long as I'm able to do the same.
He's correct.
The city selected the subject property for participation in the LaSalle Reimagined program, which emphasizes historic preservation and the adaptive reuse of significant buildings in the LaSalle corridor. This transformative project will convert 400,000 square feet of vacant office space into 400 new residential units.
Objection.
Excuse me, how does that relate to the landmark status criteria? If it doesn't, it's out of order.
As staff detailed in their presentation today and in 2 prior hearings, the Bankers Building clearly satisfies criterion 1 as an example of the heritage of the city of Chicago, criterion 4 for exemplary architecture as a rare combination of Art Deco and classical design, and criterion 5 as a work of a significant architect. Moreover, the adaptive reuse enabled by this designation advances the landmark ordinance's broader purposes, which are enumerated in the ordinance and include preserving the character and vitality of the central area, promoting economic development through rehabilitation and conserving and strengthening the city's property tax base.
That it?
To conclude, the designation criteria are fully satisfied and designation will advance the city's longstanding goals for preservation, economic vitality, and neighborhood reinvestment. My client, while not the applicant for this designation, consents to, supports, and welcomes this designation as part of its stewardship of the property and fully embraces its alignment with the city's adaptive reuse and preservation goals. We respectfully urge the commission to recommend final landmark designation. In doing so, the commission will not only preserve an architectural asset, but will reinforce the city's commitment to balancing historic preservation with economic reinvestment in the central
Could you
area.
slow down a little bit, please?
I have a written copy of the statement that I'll
Thank you.
give to you. We extend our gratitude to DPD staff and many partners, stakeholders, and civic organizations that have written in support or are appearing today, including the Chicago Loop Alliance, Preservation Chicago, Affordable Housing Illinois, Landmarks Illinois, the Chicago Central Area Committee, and neighboring property owners. Their participation underscores the broad recognition of this building's importance to Chicago's architectural and cultural legacy. Thank you, Commissioner Tolliver, for the opportunity to present this statement in support of the landmark designation. And
Thank you.
we offered us written statement into the.
Deborah, are you in support or in opposition?
Given that my client has not properly had an opportunity to assess, it's.
I'm only asking because that determines whether I call on you or not right now.
Yeah, certainly, we haven't assessed this at this time because we've not been given.
Mara,
On behalf of the lender to the hotel office owner, I think I'm forced to, again, to oppose this designation.
this is not.
I'm just saying, I think I'm
Okay.
being forced to oppose it. We didn't come here with the intent to oppose it, but I'm forced to oppose.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Do any other parties to the hearing or the commission staff have any questions for this party? We will now hear the presentations from parties in opposition to the proposed designation. Presentations may include an oral or written statement, documents, photographs, or any other testimony from witnesses. Presentation should be no longer than 60 minutes for the property owner or their representative granted party status, and 20 minutes for parties who do not own the property, and must be limited to whether the proposed designation meets the landmark criteria set forth in the municipal code. Information ruled on by the hearing officer as not relevant to the property meets landmark criteria may not be entered into the hearing record. Also, to the extent any presentations include testimony from witnesses or any other parties to the hearing, commission staff and the hearing officer may question the presenter providing that testimony. We'll now hear from presentations from those parties in opposition to the landmark designation.
Commissioner Tolliver, my name is Mara Georges, GEORGES. I represent the lender to the hotel owner, CW Capital Asset Management LLC. Up until now, I have been told I can't make a motion to confer a continuance because CW Capital Asset Management LLC is not an owner. I have been designated by you as a party to this proceedings, and I'd like to make a motion to continue this designation to allow CW Capital Asset Management to have the time to determine.
How does that relate to whether the criteria identified to landmark this building is appropriate or not? That's the issue at hand.
With all due respect, sir, up till now, I have not had the opportunity to make a motion to continue this designation proceeding. And I'd like a ruling on that motion.
We've received the letter. That was the motion, and the motion is denied.
Thank you for the.
Sure.
The lender is put in a situation where its use of the property is injured because of the actions here. The substitute ordinance are causing
That's-
landmarks. It is so inextricably intertwined, sir, that the two cannot be extracted from each other. When you have an ordinance that provides that landmarking is going to allow the hotel owners' rights to be.
Council said you were provided the opportunity at the beginning of this hearing to make that statement. So it can't continue.
I didn't realize I had been designated that opportunity.
Yeah.
We will oppose the landmarking at this time. Thank you for your.
Sure. Thank you for your presentation. Do any other parties to the hearing or the commission staff have any questions to this party? Now we will hear statements from members of the public regarding the proposed landmark designation. Statements may be made in favor or in opposition to the proposed landmark designation. Anyone wishing to make a statement in favor of the proposed designation should have filled out a pink appearance form. Those who wish to speak in opposition to the proposed designation should fill out a yellow appearance form. If you haven't already completed a form, they are available at the table. Here, are these three? Statements from property owners are limited to 20 minutes, while members of the general public are limited to 3 minutes. I'll let my time watch. Please state your name, address, and the interest, organization, or company you represent, if any. In the interest of time, you are encouraged to focus your statements on information not previously given. If you agree with the previous statement or statements, feel free to state as such. Instead of a verbal statement, you may submit a written statement. If you wish to submit a written statement, please include your name, address, and the organization, if applicable, at the top of your statement and give it to a member of the staff. Now we will hear statements from property owners and members of the general public in favor of the proposed designation. Dan Luna's the first one. In here. Chloe Groom,
Yes.
are you a general public or property? Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Chloe Grew. I live in the 34th Ward at 1035 West Van Buren Street. I am affiliated with the housing organization Abundant Housing Illinois, and I'm here to speak in favor of landmarking 105 West Adams. I was actually surprised to learn that this building isn't already landmarked. as the presentation went over earlier, it was designed by Daniel Burnham's sons, Daniel Burnham Jr. and Herbert Burnham. Not only is their father an iconic Chicago architect, they themselves designed the Carbide and Carbon building, which is a Chicago landmark. The Bankers Building also deserves to be landmarked. The Bankers Building was built 2 years before the Carbon and Carbide building in 1927. Its composition was strongly shaped by Chicago's first zoning ordinance put into place 4 years earlier. These new rules mandated that skyscrapers be tapered to allow for sunlight and air at street level. In response, the Bankers Building has dramatic setbacks and light courts framed by prominent wings. And to me, it makes the building look like a throne. It's very iconic and noticeable. The architecture is noted as a rare combination of Art Deco and classical styles applied to a tall commercial building. And even from the street level, you just feel that Art Deco influence with the unbroken verticality of the base of the building. It's very awe-inspiring. Additionally, the main entrance that was highlighted in the presentation is decorated with beautiful classical ornamentation, including these very detailed carvings featuring symbols like the caduceus, cornucopia, and grapevines, level of detail you don't often see today. And to this day, the Bankers Building is the tallest brick building in Chicago. In summary, the Bankers Building is beautiful, unique, and reflects Chicago's history and its design. It should absolutely be landmarked. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Stoltz,
Yes.
you general public or?
General public.
Okay,
Morning, Chair. My name is Gary Stoltz. I am the Design and Development Officer for our two companies. I am here today on behalf of Brown Derby LLC, which is the owner, and we are assisting them with redevelopment of the Rector Building at 79 West Monroe, a designated Chicago landmark building. We sit about a half a block away from the Bankers Building, and we share a couple similar facts. One, we're both contributing buildings within the West of the Sale Historic District, and we are also part of the Loop Reimagined initiative. As a neighboring property owner and fellow Loop Reimagined participant, we're strongly in favor of the designation. And this is not just about one building, it's about reinforcing the historic and economic framework of the Sale Street as well as downtown as a whole. Protecting these buildings is critical to preserving the character, vitality of the downtown area. This designation will promote economic development and will make additional rehabilitation projects possible. For these reasons, we urge the Commission to support designation of the Bankers Building as a Chicago.
thank you. John Jarger?
Actually, it's Jaeger. My name is John Jaeger. It's actually spelled Jarger, so you weren't incorrect, according to phonics. My business address is 12 East Erie, Chicago, Illinois, 60611. I'm here in favor of the landmark status. Even the people I'm here with at work today weren't aware of this because I've been working with the developer for months now. But I signed an NDA, so at that time I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. So I've heard that there's a finance person here in the room today about the hotel. Well, what we've been working on are things like the overall senior HUD loan and tax credits and what are we going to do with them? And it's my understanding that if this building does not get landmark status, it's not going to be able to have the historical tax credits. And I can tell you from seeing the sources and uses statement that if you take out the historical tax credits and use as the denominator the total development cost, this thing is a non-starter. And with what was just said a moment ago about this neighborhood and the goals of this community, we're ready to go. I brought in the AFL-CIO Housing Investment Trust to buy the Ginnie Mae securities. And all I'm saying
He's
is,
speaking. He's speaking.
Raising an objection.
You can't raise an objection.
okay, and I'm close to 3 minutes anyway. So in conclusion, we're ready to go on this. In many cases, there's always challenges in financing a project this big. So I'm not going to say there aren't any challenges, but I don't think there's anything insurmountable. We've looked at all the numbers. The investment managers that are in our pension fund have looked at the numbers. And what I'm hearing today is, okay, owners have rights. I get that. I'm not an attorney. Owners have rights, but we're kind of like maybe winning a battle to lose a war because this battle gets lost, it gets won by the people who are opposing it, we could end up losing the war. Because without the tax credits, this is gonna be a very challenging thing to move forward on. Thank you.
Thank you. Luis, Vasquez.
Here.
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Luis Vasquez. I represent Toro Consortium. Our address,
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I represent, please repeat.
Toro Consortium, TORO Consortium.
Thank you.
Our address is 15657 South 70th Court, Orland Park. I'm here to speak in favor of the landmark status for this building. It's gonna be a great asset for the city of Chicago based on all the information we received on the presentation. I like to speak about economic development, but it will definitely provide more than 300 jobs, over 300,000 hours for minority-owned companies and also workforce development and women-owned businesses. So I'm gonna keep it short. Would like to vote in favor of this landmark status. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward Miller.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Ward Miller, the Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of the nonprofit Chicago-based group Preservation Chicago. We are here today to offer our strong support for the Chicago landmark designation of the Bankers Building, also known as the Clark Adams Building, located at 105 West Adams Street. This is an exemplary building located in the heart of the Loop and designed by Daniel Burnham's sons, formerly of the D.H. Burnham Company. They also designed a number of great quality landmark structures, including the Carbon and Carbide building. We understand that this is one of Chicago's tallest buildings when it was built in 1927. And it was a great commitment to our legacy as a skyscraper city, where the skyscraper was initially born, if you will. And this was a great commitment to LaSalle Street as well in the financial area of Chicago. The structure is also part of, and we're very excited about this, the LaSalle Street Reimagined vision, which will revision several of these former office buildings to residential structures. And we very much support the idea and look forward to this building moving through the Chicago Landmark Designation process to join Chicago's list of esteemed landmark buildings known across the world. We think that this mostly vacant office building on its upper floors will be revisioned as a residential building, and this is a strong commitment to Chicago's Loop. It's revisioning of these historic buildings that have become unfortunately obsolete, and this is a reinvestment in those great structures in our landmarks. Just one other thing, that this is also a prominent site overlooking Mies van der Rohe's Chicago Federal Center, one of his largest projects. And so it's a highly visible building, and to see this commitment of funds to this structure is very well welcome. So we at Preservation Chicago very much support the Chicago landmark designation of this structure.
Thank you. Michael Edwards.
Good morning, Chair. It's always tough to follow a professional historic preservationist, but I'll do my best. Michael Edwards with the President and CEO of the Chicago Loop Alliance. We're located at 55 West Monroe Street, Suites 2660. Our mission is to create, manage, and promote a high-performing urban experience that attracts you and investors to the Loop. We're very excited about this particular project because those beautiful historic preservation buildings are partly the secret sauce that makes people to continue to come to the Loop. I've been with the Loop for 12 years and have suffered through the pandemic, and we're just now coming out of the pandemic. But just as a little bit of context of why a project like this is so important, we currently have 55 vacant storefronts on State Street, which is crazy. But at the same time, we have 31 new businesses that are open in the greater Loop area, not State Street, not just in front of the Bankers Building. And office is finally coming back. Office brokers are talking about people even locating into office spaces within the center of the Loop, not just around the edges. So we think that this project is terrific. And it's a reflection of the impact that the Reimagine LaSalle Street initiative of the city has had on the loop. So we're very much in support of this. We would love to see the landmark designation so this project could go forward. Development is all about momentum, and there is growing momentum in this particular project with landmark designation. That momentum can continue and we can get another great project downtown.
Thank you. Mark Hopkins.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. I'm Mark Hopkins. I live in the Loop at 60 East Monroe Street, so I'm just a couple blocks away. I walk past Michael's office every day and I see board meetings every day, so I thank you for being here. And I thank you for the time to do this. I'm also Executive Director of the Chicago Central Area Committee. You don't know us, we were formed in 1956, actually 70 years later. Civic, business, and cultural leaders gathered to try and come up with an organization that would help ensure the long-term strategy for a successful central state. And since then, we've done more than 150 studies and reports. And some of the big things that have come out of them, you might not have heard of these. Millennium Park was a result of our 1983 plan. And we did most of the framework development around the Riverwalk. So we're here today to support what's happening in the redevelopment of Chicago. Old financial district. We have the honor of working with the previous administration in the development of the program itself, the South Street Reimagine, and with the current administration that's in implementation. We think it's critical. The catalytic redevelopment capital area of Chicago. If you look what's happened since this sparked, Google purchased the building at the north end of LaSalle Street. R2 has been involved with the redevelopment of the Chicago Board of Trade. This is a spark that will change what the downtown area of Chicago is like, because our historic important buildings will remain and will be successful. It scares me every time I walk past the corner of Washington and Frank, where the Chicago Mercantile Exchange building used to sit. And it received a demolition permit when it was 97% occupied. And today there's a gravel lot there with nothing on it and fence around it. So what scares me is if we don't go down the road of landmark designation when it's appropriate, these buildings will deteriorate, demolished. In the current market, we're going to have gravel lots around the downtown area of Chicago. With all that being said, we're here to strongly support this organization, this landmark designation for 105 West Adams. This preserving and reinvesting in historic buildings is essential to maintaining the character and vitality of the loop, particularly the West Loop, the financial area. And in closing, this designation is about more than one building, as I implied before. It's about strengthening the central city's identity, both as a business climate and as a residential area. That will then also bring us back the retail market that Michael was mentioning, which I can tell you as a resident is sorely lacking in downtown. So we're membership based. Some of the largest lawyers, developers, architecture experts, urban planners are our members, and I urge you to support the designation of this building. Thank you.
Okay. Pete Schneider.
Let's move. Good morning. My name is Pete Snyder. I live in the 4th Ward at 600 South Dearborn, Unit 1002. I'm a member of Abundant Housing Illinois. I was born in Chicago, grew up in Hyde Park, and lived in the south suburbs. And I and my family plan on staying in Chicago for the rest of our lives. Like everyone else here, I'm deeply invested and committed to Chicago, which is why I'm here to express my support for landmarking 105 West Adams. I strongly support the landmarking for several reasons. First, the building's Art Deco structure is a striking example of Chicago's unique historical place in the history of urban development. The building, in its distinct style, is part of why Chicago's architecture is world-renowned, why every year tourists come to Chicago. Chicago's distinct buildings are part of what makes Chicago a dense world-class city without falling into the unattractive architectural monotony other cities see. Landmarking buildings like 105 West Adams will help protect this aspect of Chicago's unique character. The second, and I think more important reason to landmark 105 West Adams is that granting the building landmark status will help convert the building to affordable housing. Every neighborhood in Chicago is in a critical housing shortage. Housing is calamitously expensive, driving lifelong Chicagoans out of the city and discouraging would-be Chicagoans from moving. Converting 105 West Adams to apartments is urgent because it will create 400 new apartments in a part of the city that has world-class public transit and better access to jobs, entertainment, and culture than maybe anywhere else in the city. Landmarking the building will help build these 400 new apartments. In closing, thank you all for your time, attention, and focus on the issue. I know we all support more affordable housing in the city, and we all want to support and revitalize the loop. These are important and urgent issues. Landmarking the building is the best way to protect Chicago's unique architectural history and will convert the currently underutilized building into urgently needed housing. And so I strongly urge you to grant 105 West Adams landmark status. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Sprague.
Present. Morning, Commissioner Oliver. My name is Robert Sprague, and I'm a resident of 34th Ward, residing at 321 South Sangamon Street, and I'm speaking on behalf of Abundant Housing Illinois. We strongly support landmarking the Bankers Building at 105 West Adams.
Speak a little louder, please.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
We strongly support landmarking the Bankers Building at 105 West Adams. This stunning Art Deco skyscraper is a reminder of our city's tradition of bold, forward-looking architecture. Yet for too long, it has been sitting idle. Our greatest skyscrapers should not be gathering dust. They should be homes for Chicagoans. This landmarking will unlock exactly that. The planned redevelopment will bring over 400 new apartments to the loop, including 30% set aside as affordable homes across a range of AMI levels. That means teachers, service workers, young professionals, and families alike will be able to live in the heart of our city, not just those with the highest incomes. Revitalizing the loop requires more residents, more lights on at night, more activity on the sidewalks. At a time when Chicago faces a major housing shortage with far too few new units being built, we need projects like this to move forward quickly if we want to give more people a chance to call our wonderful city home. Chicago should be proud to preserve this architectural treasure while giving it a new life as housing. Abundant Housing Illinois urges the Commission to make a final recommendation to approve this designation and ensure the Bankers Building can once again serve the city, not as an empty relic, but as a vibrant community for hundreds of residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Socorro Vasquez.
My name is Socorro Vasquez. I am the owner of Toro Construction, and I am here to support this landmark. As a native Chicagoan, I know everything that's happened to the city and the architecture. I understand the history very well, and I understand the importance of labeling this as a landmark. The impact that it will have on our city will be great. There are not enough, in my opinion, landmarks. In Chicago has historically been known for its skyline. And being the architects that designed this building, I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Gida. Tony here. Michael Edwards.
Already spoke.
Okay, so we have 2
4 minutes.
Trying to double dip. All right. Now we will hear statements from property owners and members of the general public. The proposed business, general public, the proposed landmark designation, who are opposed to it. Yeah. All right. I don't have any forms. No yellow forms. This concludes today's public hearing. The commission will consider the entire record, including the transcript of today's hearing, at its regular meeting on October 9th, 2025, and determine whether to make a final recommendation to City Council on the proposed landmark designation of the Bankers Building. The meeting is open to the public and will take place at 12:45 p.m. in City Hall, City Council Chambers, 2nd floor. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you.